After the release of the first few images taken by the James Webb Telescope, space exploration fans have another big event to look forward to. Mark your calendars because NASA is about to take another big step into space exploration. We're, of course, talking about the Artemis 1 mission that's finally about to be executed. In this video, we'll show you what that space mission is all about and the promises it holds for the scientific world. Let's first introduce the Artemis program as a whole. Landing a person on the moon has been a major milestone in human history. In 1969, when Neil Armstrong made that first step on the lunar surface, we didn't shut up about it and had been replaying that moment over and over again. But you'd be surprised to know that since then, human-led space exploration programs have sort of died down. The last crewed mission to the moon happened in 1972, which is quite a long time ago. So in December 2017, NASA began what is called the Artemis program. This would include a series of moon landings, not just one. Not only does NASA aim to send the first woman and the first person of color to the moon through this program to encourage more inclusivity. Apart from that, this space program has been designed in such a way that the moon would basically become a major hub of space explorers. It would lead the way for humans to extract resources from the moon and develop a sustainable relationship with the lunar surface. While NASA is the main agency that is leading this program, the European Space Agency and other space agencies from different countries are also involved. The series of missions that would come under this program is called Space Launch Systems Missions, or SLS missions for short. So what's Artemis 1 and what's going to happen? You can tell by the name that Artemis 1 is the first SLS mission that's about to take place. Being the first one, it won't be a manned mission but is basically just going to be a test drive of sorts. As of now, NASA has been planned through Artemis 1 and Artemis 5, so they've got the goals and trajectories mapped out for 5 missions in total. The rest are still in the planning phase. As the level of the missions increases, so does the complexity. It's like a video game that you keep playing to get to the last round. Artemis 1 has 2 basic components, the SLS rocket and the Orion spacecraft. The plan is to send these into space and make sure the Orion spacecraft goes into lunar orbit and comes back to Earth safe and sound. The SLS rocket is supposed to launch Orion into lunar space. Of course, there are other technical things that NASA's going to test out through this mission, but making sure this heavy spacecraft doesn't crash and burn is the most important goal. That's also why it's going to be an unmanned mission. So when can we expect this historic moment to happen? Well, it was supposed to happen back in 2021, but as you know, these things always get into major roadblocks. The Artemis 1 is now scheduled to launch on August 29th at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And now let's take a look at some of the preparations for this big space event. After a long 10-hour journey, the Artemis 1 rocket and spacecraft were finally assembled and taken to the launch pad. It's now at the launch pad 39B at the Kennedy Space Center and is ready to take off. The launch team at the center in Florida and the launch teams across the U.S. will start their countdown on the 27th of August, 2 days before the launch. Until then, engineers and technicians would be making all the necessary arrangements and going over the protocols for the launch. But before all of this happened, the team went through the crucial test known as the wet dress rehearsal. No, they don't have to do a dress rehearsal in wet clothes, as the name suggests. The team basically had to fuel the rocket in time and go through all the checkpoints before liftoff. This was a 2-day test that tested the team's ability to work under pressure and under a time crunch. The test also involved making sure the weather was clear for launch, assessing if there were any pre-planned holdups, and judging whether the propellants were fueled fully. Well, the wet dress rehearsal was finally successful after 3 failed attempts, but even the 4th attempt had a minor problem that the technicians didn't think was big enough to be worried about. Well, we have our fingers crossed that everything will work out on launch day. So what does Artemis 1 hold for future space missions? Well, we already mentioned how this mission aims to open doors for different people toward space explorations. Sending the first woman and the first person of color to the moon is sending a message about equality and peace. The team for this mission hasn't been announced yet, but we can't wait to see who will be our representatives. Apart from that, the Artemis 1 mission has the most powerful rocket that has ever been built, and it's going to carry such a heavy spacecraft. The technology that the Artemis 1 mission has helped produce is going to encourage other space exploration missions. There are new spacesuits being being tested out at the Kennedy Space Center to assess their durability and efficiency on the lunar surface. The Artemis 1 will also help NASA find out about radiation levels in space. This is being done to make sure that the future crew members are safe once they're outside the protective Van Allen radiation belts. And just like the space race in the 1960s, this mission has pushed other nations across the world to send their people to the moon as well. We all appreciate a bit of healthy competition, don't we? China has already promised that soon its own astronauts will walk the surface of the moon too. Well, until then, we have to wait and hope that the Artemis 1 succeeds on the 29th of August. Ahead of this launch, tourists are already making their way to the Florida Space Coast, where they'll be able to see the rocket launch into the sky. Now, in other news. And now, let's look at a failed attempt at launching a rocket into space. Recently, China launched its most powerful rocket, Long Mark 5B, into orbit, along with the Wentian Laboratory. But things didn't really go as planned. The cargo spacecraft that assisted the space station burned up, and most of its debris ended up falling into the sea in the Philippines. This was not intended, obviously, and caused a lot of commotion in the space exploration community. It hasn't been confirmed whether anyone was impacted by the debris, but it might have harmed sea life. Just last year, NASA accused China of not meeting the standards with regard to their space debris, and now this happened, so the criticism only worsened. But China's space agency has had recent wins as well. China has been quite tight-lipped about its recent space missions. No photo evidence of the launch of the spacecraft is released during their missions. Despite all of this secrecy, we can tell that they've been making a lot of progress. The space agency's latest spacecraft, which is supposed to be reusable, has just completed 2 weeks of orbiting in space. This experimental spacecraft was launched from the Gobi Desert from the Long Mark 2F rocket and is operated quite nicely. The spacecraft was used in September 2020, so it fulfilled its aim of being a reusable spacecraft that can minimize the cost and resources involved in modern-day space exploration. It has also had a number of developments since its first launch, but the details are all a bit fuzzy because of all the secrecy around these projects. Finally, new findings have emerged regarding the Earth's water. An asteroid sample brought in 2020 by the Japanese space probe called Hayabusa 2 has led to an astounding discovery. This sample was taken from the asteroid Ryugu and weighed up to 5.4 grams, which is mostly just rock and dust. But the scientist studying it holds the clue to an age-old question. Studies have been conducted around this sample since 2020, and the papers on those studies are just getting published. In a recent paper published in June, a group of researchers claimed that the sample taken from Ryugu contains traces of life on Earth, traces such as amino acids. In another paper published in the National Astronomy Journal, scientists claim that this sample holds the clues to finding out how oceans appeared on the Earth's surface billions of years ago. They claim that asteroids like Ryugu brought all the material needed to create water to Earth. New findings related to Ryugu keep popping up, as scientists believe that these particles are the most uncontaminated pieces of evidence from the solar system. It continues to expand their knowledge about the Earth's origins and creation. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think of NASA's Artemis 1 mission? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.